Hey everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. Today we are taking a look at Dame Helen Mirren, one of the most beautiful ladies out there who dresses her figure really well. For more details on her specific style concerns or body type, go to the description and take a look there. I don't want to bore you, but in general, she is basically pear-shaped. She does have a well-defined waist. She's relatively balanced in terms of her torso to leg proportions. She's not particularly short or particularly tall. She's not particularly busty or anything like that. So she doesn't have like a ton of style concerns making it difficult to dress. The main thing that stands out is that sort of pear shape or leaning towards a pear. Luckily, she does have that well-defined waist, so as you'll find in many of these outfits, she's able to showcase her waist to keep things looking nice and balanced. But she does tend to carry a little bit more weight around her hips and thighs and even legs. So that is probably one of the main style concerns that she has, is just balancing that out. And as always, it goes without saying, none of this is body shaming or saying that one thing is bad and one thing is good at all. It's just looking at someone's proportions and how they dress well for those proportions, giving them a very nice silhouette and a complemented finish versus maybe some misses where things don't look quite as balanced or just quite as flattering. Also, the most important thing at the end of the day is that the person feels confident, and when they feel like $1,000,000, they usually look it. So ultimately, all of these sort of styling tricks or what's flattering, what's not, is not as important as how somebody feels in their clothing. And none of that is as important as the person themselves, obviously. And luckily with this fabulous lady, her personality is absolutely fabulous. She is a glowing, positive, kind lady, and I am so excited to share some of these styles with you. Here we have a pantsuit moment. Your eye is immediately drawn to where the jacket closes. It has this interesting sort of almost triangular hemline and a thicker lapel here, and it's in high contrast, meaning her base is all black. So this silvery blazer sort of pops and is very eye-catching in this look. I don't particularly like for how scrunched it is in the rolled up sleeves, but perhaps the sleeves were just too long or voluminous for her and it looked worse. Here's the thing, with pears, if you have too much room in your sleeve, it's similar to like an hourglass, for example. If you have really big sleeves or a lot of space in your sleeves, it can just overwhelm your figure or make you look kind of chunky and bigger than you are. So this is not exclusive to pears, but if your sleeves have too much volume, it'll kind of turn you into a giant wide box on top. So maybe that's why she scrunched up her sleeves here, but either way, I don't particularly like how that's looking. But having the main focal point of this blazer look be right there in her lower belly area is just not necessarily the best spot to draw the eye. The lapel is also a bit heavy for it, but ultimately it's just kind of creating the widest point or one of her widest points as the focal point here, and it's also kind of blocking her waistline. We don't see enough waistline definition here to balance that out. But if the blazer were more like this one here in white, you see it defines her waist a lot better for starters, so that was a big help. Also, it doesn't have a chunky lapel or anything like that, and it buttons up a lot higher, so it closes up here on her bust area rather than down at the belly area. So this is a lot better choice for her. Also, you can notice that the jacket just sort of skims over her hips here. It just sort of drapes open, and it's a very flattering look for the pear inclined. To have your blazers hit at your hips or lower is going to look a lot more flattering, especially if it just drapes over them and skims over them the way this one does. And by skipping that lapel and having those buttons and whatnot, it just provides a lifted effect, drawing your eye up towards her face rather than down towards the belly or hip area. Also, side note, shoulder pads are totally fine for pears, especially if you are able to define a waistline so that you don't turn into a big rectangle. You don't want to do that either. You do want to still be able to define the waistline somehow, but adding a little bit of volume to the shoulders through puff sleeves or shoulder pads is totally great for pears. But we see the same approach here with her casual outfits by buttoning just the top of her cardigan here. It allows the cardigan to then just drape outward and flow towards her hips. And it encourages the eye to stay up towards her neckline, where there is that interest from the collar and the texture and the buttoning there. Here in this blazer, it's an open style but a longer cut. The hemline is down towards her hips, which it actually might seem counterintuitive to have that hem down there at her hips. But it's really perfect because chopping the vertical line too far up or having the hemline of a coat, jacket, blazer, things like that up higher will actually exaggerate the hips, making them look even bigger or wider than they really are. And they're already a little bit wider compared to other areas of her body type. So if you're pear inclined or you identify your widest point as being more down towards your hips, thighs, or lower belly area, then having something longer that will skim over those areas the way this does, or stick with cropped, are the best, most flattering lengths for those sorts of outerwear or blazers and stuff of that nature. She has a great waistline already, but these just further enhance the illusion that her waistline is nice and well defined underneath these skimming blazers and cardigans. It accentuates her figure rather than creating a sort of boxy look or adding any bulk to the arms. Notice both of these have very slim fit arms, like we were talking about a moment ago. Here in this purple dress, ignore the bolero for a moment. We'll get to that in a second. This dress is nice and fitted everywhere until you get to that mermaid style flare at the bottom. Now, this is not exactly what she needs here. This is really weighing down the look. It's really drawing your eye down, and then there's like this extra flare down here, all this extra fabric. She already has a great curve to her hips and a great figure. She doesn't really need this dragging things down in the wrong way. I don't think that this flare was very flattering for her in this mermaid style gown. A bolero, for those who don't know, is typically shorter, like cropped or shorter, worn open jacket, and it's often dressier in its vibe. But the bolero is swallowing up her waistline, so we don't have any sort of waistline definition, and that's in part due to these chunky, big bulky pockets on this bolero, but I mean it would have happened no matter what because it blocks the waistline. So it really turned her into a wider, more chunky rectangular figure, especially with that flare there. It makes the thinnest part of her silhouette be her knees, and that's just really not helping anything. And a similar problem happened here in this animal print dress when she hides her waist, and or when there's like jackets or pockets or volume covering up her waistline above her hips and whatnot, we lose her figure. She looks wider, more rectangular, and it's just less flattering for her. She has such a great figure. It's disappointing to see these pictures where her figure's not being flattered the way it should be. But don't worry, we have some really good examples coming up. This dress is just really a bit of a miss, and it's so unfortunate because she looks radiant in it, but this silvery dress is just less flattering on account of the bulk in the sleeves and the shoulders. Here, there was too much weight added to the shoulders and the sleeves, and it didn't create balance. It ended up just creating too much bulk, clutter, and unflattering volume. Without enough room to shine for her waistline, it just widens her overall silhouette. It does work to add volume up top to bring balance to a wider hip or a pear inclined person, but not if the waistline is totally erased, because as I said, it just creates a giant block or rectangle or oval, and that's not what you want to do either. If you have a well-defined waist, use it. But this gold one here is a lot more flattering. This one's much better. Now, whether or not you like the sort of gold leaf applique that this dress has, whether or not you like that, just try to look past that and look at the actual shape that this dress has and how it fits to her body. It has fitted sleeves and this asymmetrical collar situation and neckline. It's very, very flattering. It widens and opens up her shoulders by just simply exposing them, but not too much so or too aggressively, because it has that asymmetry to it. It still has a flattering element to it and movement. Plus, that panel across this diagonal section here is folded and almost draped looking, so it has a little bit of a softness to its texture anyway. The sleeves, while they're not skin tight and super fitted in an uncomfortable way, they're fitted in the right way where you can see her waistline definition present. The level at which her waistline seam is, where the waistband is before the skirt begins, is perfectly fine for her here. She has a little wiggle room with that because she has a well-defined waistline and enough room in her torso, meaning she's not like super short-waisted or anything. She can have the waistband for her dresses be a little closer to Empire or a little bit closer to a drop waist, just not a full drop waist. But here is one of my favorite looks on her. This dress is stunning, you guys. I think she wore it on a runway for a fashion show. It has these beautiful puff sleeves, but it's still really fitted throughout the arm. And the waistline is nice and fitted, but also has this gorgeous draping that just enhances and accentuates her great waist there with some extra diagonal lines and the fabric having this sort of almost twist off to the side. It's so flattering. It actually enhances her waistline even more. And then this gorgeous drapey, flowy skirt. It is a perfect dress for her. She looks beautiful here, and it's a perfect dress for anybody who has a similar body type or style concerns. Keeping the flowier fabrics or slimmer silhouettes for the skirts and lower body allow for that balancing effect for her figure. So something that's a little bit more fitted, similar to like a pencil skirt or something like that, or something that's got the flowy fabrics. If it's gonna have volume, stick with the flowier fabrics that have that movement so that it doesn't turn into like a giant bell shape or something like that that looks exaggerated in the wrong way. When it has volume, but it looks like it's got that movement to it, it's perfectly balanced. Okay, this tweed jacket, I really like it. I think it's beautiful. I'm not too crazy about the collar on it, but I think it would have been a lot more successful if she wore it open or if she had on black nylons here. Having these pale nylons or nude colored nylons is just kind of making it compete with the jacket itself. It's making her legs in competition with the jacket. You're not quite sure where to look or where to let your eye rest. I think if there was like a pop of color somewhere, that would help too. Like if the collar were a bright, beautiful red or blue or something instead, or if there were some bright buttons, or like I said, if she wore it open and had some sort of bright colored top on underneath, I think that would have just brought the right amount of balance to this jacket and make it successful. This floral dress here, it's a little bit, I don't like this one. It's got this giant overdone green bow. It's just not my favorite. The fabric of it reminds me of maybe like some old-fashioned drapes or something. I'm just not a huge fan, but it really is just adding a lot of clutter above her widest point. There's nothing lifting our eye back up. Basically, we see that green bow and then we drift down to all that interest and pattern in the darker portion of the skirt. So it's not doing her any justice because it's just kind of gravitating down to the widest point and then you're just kind of stuck there. We needed to be lifted back up somehow. Something flashy or a bright pop up here would have helped, but really this dress just probably wasn't the best choice for her. Because this darker color and the busyness of the pattern is really catching our eye and drawing it down, it's not doing her any favors. Okay, this beautiful green number does so many wonderful things for her body type and for her shape. The keyhole is great. It's very eye-catching. It keeps you lifted. It draws you up towards her gorgeous face. Just an ever so slight shoulder pad in this green dress. Not too much, just the right amount. Now, because Helen is also a little bit busty, that's another reason why too much room in her sleeves doesn't work well for her, but too much bulk on the shoulders or the chest or the arms isn't going to do well for her, in part because she's a bit busty as well. But these modest little shoulder pads in here just add ever so slight widening to her shoulders and just add that little bit of structure, which is very complementing to this rest of this dress here that has a lot of flow and curve and soft lines to it. This twist waist is accentuating her great waistline without adding any sort of bulk or volume to it, which would be less flattering. So this is perfect. And then it just flows over her hips in this gorgeous drapey fabric. This color is gorgeous. The sleeves are nice and fitted, allowing her figure room to shine. And also notice where that waistline is, okay? So it's very fitted all the way from just under her bust, coming in at that angle there, creating almost like a V under her bust, and then it stays fitted throughout the very top portion of her hip area where her waistline begins to curve back out for her hips. So it's staying fitted all the way down there is allowing a really great balance. It's giving her torso room, it's giving her waistline room to show up. It's very, very flattering, and it's slenderizing, not that she needs it. This white one in a somewhat similar silhouette, that it's got that big flowy skirt, it's nice and long and full length. It's got these puffs at the shoulder and a bit of a puff sleeve. As you can notice, these have a bit more room in them, these sleeves do, which if they were solid would be a bit problematic and kind of close her in more. But since these have a sheerness to them, these sleeves, it works okay because you can see that they are sheer, which gives you the idea or the feel that it's more texture and there's room in there rather than just kind of bulking up her arms, so to speak, for lack of a better term. So if your sleeves are sheer in any way, even if they're like puffed and sheer but have a good cuff to kind of rein it in and control, like we've talked about before with like Kate versus Megan's sleeves, here if you have something that's sheer, it's still going to deliver the similar effect as a fitted sleeve. And again, it's nice and fitted throughout the waist, though the waist is slightly less defined simply because there's no focal point there. Focal point of this one is very much up at the neckline and the shoulders and the sleeves of this dress with their interesting texture. I can't decide if I like the necklace on this or not. I just really can't decide. I think that without the necklace, it might look a little empty, but I'm not 100% sure that the busyness of that necklace matches well with the lace sheer with the solid under portion of the dress, the lining. So I'm not fully behind it, but I'm not hating it either. You guys leave in the comments what you think about that necklace, because I can't decide. So here's an example of a V-neck or shoulder exposure that's less flattering than we saw before. She has a great figure for dresses. Honestly, pears are fabulously suited to dresses because they often do have at least a somewhat well-defined waistline, and because they're wider pointers at the hips and whatnot, that's often where the skirt of a dress tends to come out. So it's really easy to create great balance with these silhouettes. But as you can see, some are much more widening to her figure than others. Take a look at this gray one. The skirt is very stiff, so it's very much creating that sort of stiff, wide bell shape. Because there's no like actual focal point around the waistline. Her waistline, although it's fitted throughout there and defined okay, it's not necessarily exaggerated or dramatically defined either, or accentuated in a like uber flattering way. It's totally fine, but when you have this dramatic V-neck paired up with the rest of this dress, the flare of it and whatnot, it's just a little bit much on her figure. It's really widening her. I think if the waistline were a bit lower, if it stayed fitted a little longer before the skirt flared out, it would have helped. But also having this really, really wide, dramatic off-the-shoulder V-neck is a bit too much as compared to the other necklines that we have seen were a little bit more flattering than this one. It's just too out of balance. Here in this yellow one, oh, this is one of my favorite looks I've ever seen her in. It really draws your eye to her waist and up to that sweetheart neckline. Sweetheart necklines are great about that. They'll really keep somebody's eye up towards your chest, your cleavage at times if they are low cut sweetheart, and your face. Because they have such an interesting shape, it really kind of frames your face. So I love sweetheart necklines for that. But here it defines her waist so nicely. It's at a great place. I love the color. You guys know I love yellow. But this flowier fabric on the skirt is so much more flattering and so much more balanced than that stiffer gray fabric. If you compare and contrast which one is more flattering to her, it's clearly the flowier fabric. Even if I make it black and white so you can see the skirts both in a gray tone here, the flowier fabric is so much more flattering on her figure than the stiffer fabric is. And the sleeves in the yellow one are a little bit sheer, so that bit of room that they have in them is not hindering the effect at all because they have that sheerness to them. So this dress is absolutely perfect and beautiful for her, for anybody pear inclined. I think it would look great on lots and lots of people. It's a gorgeous dress. I love it. I want it. But if there were one thing I would say about this absolutely perfect dress is that it looks just a tad bit too long. To me, after I was looking at it for a little bit, I was like, is it shortening her? What is happening? Is it too long? Like, I almost want it to be just a little bit longer or to be able to see the ankles. But this is the point that we're going to discuss. Sometimes if you're more pear inclined, you might carry weight in your legs or your hips or your lower belly or any combination. So you might not have dainty ankles, as some might call it, and some people might not want to showcase their ankles because of that. I don't think you need to hide your ankles if you don't find them to be particularly thin. I think that's just kind of one of those things that we put on ourselves or we notice and nobody else really notices or cares. But if you feel less confident in your ankles, or you say you have cankles, I don't like that term, I disagree with it, but if you feel like you don't have dainty or attractive ankles and you don't want to showcase them in an outfit, you don't feel comfortable with that, then you would need to make a tough choice the way she did here. She went ahead and kept that longer hemline rather than hemming it shorter. Even though it might have shortened her overall silhouette, it was better, and that outweighed exposing ankles that maybe she didn't want to expose. Not saying that that's the process she went through, but it's an example of that. If you don't feel confident in that area, okay, so say you feel like your ankles are not very thin or dainty or something like that. If your dress were to cut just above the ankles and then you've got your shoes on, it's going to make your ankles look even bigger than they are. It's going to make them look even thicker. And so if you're already not very confident in your ankles and then all of a sudden you're in an outfit that's making them look even bigger or creating some sort of focal point out of them, or the eyes being drawn to them because they're an exposed spot, then you'll feel even less confident. So I'd like to point out that she did do the right thing if that were the case. It is the last thing I noticed that the dress seemed maybe a bit long. And sometimes we will make a choice like this because it's the best way to do a specific outfit, garment, or style for our specific style concerns. In real life, it's the same. She could either hem it to this length or higher. And if you don't feel confident in that shorter hemline, then this is okay to do some of the time. Plus, that shorter hemline ran the risk of making her ankles, or even just her in general, look stubby or something. It may not have been the best approach. Perfection is not the ultimate goal. Feeling your best is. And let's be honest, a great way to achieve that is through flattering your figure. Bringing out your best features, accentuating the areas of your body you're most confident in, and helping to camouflage or just divert away from an area that you're less confident in, because we all have areas of our body we're less confident in showing or showcasing. Everybody does. Can help maximize your confidence in a given outfit. Rarely do all our style concerns that are unique to us and our bodies align with a given outfit. And this is a perfect example of that. For example, carrying weight in your legs and having a pear-shaped body, but having that well-defined waist, these are style concerns or style approaches and needs that didn't necessarily all mesh perfectly in every single outfit. And in some of them, you might end up shortening yourself a little bit because of that, and that's okay. So did the longer hemline shorten her a little bit? Yes, it did. But for her, looking a bit shorter overall was a better choice than cankles exposed or having a stubby ankle approach. Not saying that's what would happen, just thinking about how women think when they're getting dressed. So I support her in this choice. Dame Helen Mirren is one of the best dressed older beauties I've ever seen. She is gorgeous, and her beautiful personality and confidence is even more gorgeous. Please leave it in the comments what you thought of today's video. I always appreciate your feedback. Click the like button if you enjoyed it, and if you'd like to, please also click subscribe. It helps me out so much. It's totally free, and all of my content will pop up for you. It'll be that much easier to keep up to date on all the new videos. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I appreciate each and every one of you. Hope you have a very happy day ahead, and I will see you next time. Bye!